Throughout history, horror has taken various forms, often reflecting cultural anxieties, beliefs, and the supernatural. Here's a look at some of the most significant eras and events where horror, fear, and the macabre influenced society and art. Ancient civilizations and supernatural beliefs. Egyptian mythology. In ancient Egypt, the afterlife was seen as a journey filled with dangers. Tales about gods like Anubis, who guided souls to the underworld, and rituals involving mummification gave rise to legends about undead spirits. These early beliefs laid the foundation for stories about curses and haunted tombs. Greek and Roman lore. Myths featured terrifying creatures such as Medusa, the Minotaur, and Hades, ruler of the underworld. These stories, combined with their concepts of fate and punishment, formed some of the earliest horror narratives involving doom and inevitable death. Middle Ages, 5th–15th century, plague and superstition. The Black Death of the 14th century brought fear and horror as communities grappled with disease, death, and the unknown. Mass deaths led to art featuring Danse Macabre, or the Dance of Death, a motif symbolizing that death comes for all. Witch hunts. Fear of witchcraft led to a widespread persecution of those accused of supernatural practices. In Europe and the American colonies, countless women and men were executed based on hysteria, spawning countless horror stories about witches and the supernatural. The Gothic era, 18th–19th century, Gothic literature. Beginning with works like Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto, 1764, Gothic fiction used haunted castles, dark forests, and tormented characters. Later, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, 1818, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1897, became iconic, blending science, horror, and the supernatural in ways that reflect humanity's fears. Victorian ghost stories. By the late 19th century, ghost stories were immensely popular in England, with authors like M.R. James penning tales that combined psychological tension and supernatural encounters. Early 20th century, horror films and psychological silent horror films. Nosferatu, 1922, and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, 1920, are among the earliest horror films that used shadows, monstrous figures, and psychological fear. Lovecraftian horror. H.P. Lovecraft's stories introduced cosmic horror, emphasizing mankind's insignificance in the face of ancient, incomprehensible forces, which had a significant influence on the genre. Post-war and modern horror. 1945 present, psychological and supernatural themes. The horror genre expanded to include psychological thrillers like Psycho, 1960, by Alfred Hitchcock, which delved into human psyche and insanity. Slasher and supernatural films, from Halloween, 1978, to The Exorcist, 1973, the horror genre explored themes of possession, fear of the other, and societal anxieties. Modern horror. Today's horror often explores social issues through films like Get Out, 2017, combining racial and social tension with traditional horror tropes. Each period brought its own distinct approach to horror, reflecting societal fears and evolving storytelling techniques. From ancient rituals to Hollywood productions, horror remains a universal language for exploring the unknown and confronting what we fear most.